Hey, this is Nick at SBÄM Records. We got two Swedish bands from our label now. We got Venerea and we got two gentlemen of No Fun at All. Hey, gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
And we're gonna chat a little bit about punk rock in Sweden, because it's actually the first time that the label has two Swedish bands at once with their brand new albums. So guys, I got three of you here. Tell me a little bit, how is it, growing up as a Swedish punk rocker?
I didn't really grow up as a punk rocker. I grew up like a new wave kind of guy in the 80s, yeah. But I listened a lot to punk. But I think it was fantastic to grow up. I'm a bit older than the other guys, and I'm really happy with the time frame where I grew up. Being a part of the early 80s kind of post-punk and punk movement was fantastic. So much new music just happening, and the genres weren't really set in the way they are now at that point. So you listen to Gary Newman and The Cure and Dead Kennedys, and Buzzcocks at the same time. And it was okay because all the music was brand new and it was like cool. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you would never get away with that today.
No, you wouldn't. You have to be an Iron Maiden guy or a punk rock guy.
Yeah, I mean,
I started as an Iron Maiden guy, definitely, mostly metal in the 80s. And then in the late 80s, I got into punk rock when it wasn't new. Lots of the old groups from the late 70s and early 80s. Some were still playing, like Bad Religion just released Suffer, and I got into that. And the Hard-Ons were big right then, and the Ramones were still going. But yeah, that's what I drifted into, and that was when it was mostly the Swedish punk scene, basically where I lived at least, only had like Swedish language punk bands. So when we started in Falkenberg up the coast, and in 1991 we started playing, there were no other bands that we knew that sang in English and had this sort of hardcore style. It was either a lot harder or rockier punk in Swedish. But we met some bands such as these colleagues later, a couple of years. And Stefan?
Yeah, I'm a bit young, even younger, further down the step here. But yeah, I grew up with the early mid-90s punk rock wave, I guess. And joined these bands that were active back then. And I mean, for me, it was Bad Religion, of course, and then the Swedish bands with No Fun at All, of course, included Millencolin, Venerea, Satanic Surfers, all of them. Randy, blah blah, you know the story. When Randy played punk rock, but yeah, and then. That's basically it. And I don't know, I always liked good music, good melodies, and it didn't really matter what music it was, to be honest. A good song is a good song, I guess. So I wasn't raised a punk rocker or anything else. I was just a guy loving music, and I guess I still am. So yeah,
that's the most important thing, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what I've come to notice, I mean, there's like tons of bands from Sweden, obviously, as are from other countries as well. We got a lot of Swedish bands in punk rock, a lot of Swedish bands in like metal and all that. And I can't help but notice that a lot of bands come from Sweden and they start touring very early. Like I'm from Germany, for example. The label is based in Austria. And a lot of bands take years, to like get out there. and probably never play abroad or something, whereas Swedish bands often are, I wouldn't necessarily call it that they like they start up pretty successful, but they start up touring a lot. How do you guys think? How's that?
That's easy. There's only 10 million people in Sweden. There's 80 million people in Germany. So there's a lot more people to play for in Germany. You can only do so many shows in Sweden, and then you have to go abroad. I think it's as easy as that. And, you know, maybe there's a tradition also of doing this, since, you know, we started this in the early 90s. It was just natural to go abroad. There was no discussion about it. Okay, you do like 10 shows in Sweden, and then you have to go abroad if you want to do more shows. So, yeah, that's my explanation.
I also think that you compare it to the States, for instance, like people start gigging around their hometown, their home state, and then they go around the country. That's the same as us going around Europe, really. Because we sing in English, and in most European countries, they understand the lyrics, and there's a natural scene and punk clubs that there isn't really that much of a network for that in Sweden, not in the smaller towns anyway, and they're so few and far apart that where we're based in the south of Sweden, it's, you know, it's closer to go to Hamburg than to go to Umeå, for instance, where there is a bit of a scene, or has been. So it's just, it felt natural. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree too. I mean, I don't have too much to add to it, but for me, it was like you could play youth places in Sweden or pubs or whatever, but I always had that vision of going, Copenhagen, Germany, because it was another thing. Sweden is, I don't know, kind of restricted in that way. So yeah, that was the vision for me. And I guess also we have like youth places that helped me start up my first musical endeavors, you know, far back. Without them, I guess I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to maybe meet other people in my small shitty village that were interested in the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
then you have to be consistent to keep going, I guess.
About that was that would have been my follow-up question anyway, those youth places, because that's what I heard. The singer of Misconduct once told me, like, that there's like a lot of youth places and a lot of like possibilities for people to get like rehearsal rooms, to rent gear or anything.
I hated those places at the same time as they I didn't see it as they gave me any chance, or you know, they had a place, and they had a pool table and the TV game, you know, Nintendo, whatever, and they had a room with where you could play some music. But most people doing that really sucked, and they didn't share my vision of, I guess, even when I was 15, because I think I wanted more than just playing, you know, Pine Forest Crunch covers.
I would say that the youth clubs is one thing, but then also there are these study groups where you can start study groups. If you're at school and you've got 4 or 5 friends who wants to take up instruments, you can basically sign up for a study group, and they will give you a place to rehearse, and they will give you don't even have to rent them. You'll give them up, you know, you'll get a rehearsal space with instruments. You can go there a couple of times a week. Yeah. So that threshold isn't there for us Swedes, really. We don't have to save up to get expensive gear. You can learn with shitty gear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah.
But then once you've done that, there isn't really many places except for the youth clubs to play to start off with when you're young anyway. But yeah, it's a broad. Lots of people get the chance to start bands in Sweden.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too.
And there aren't that many places, right?
Yeah.
Which is another logical reason to go abroad. And also, we started on a small Swedish label, but once we sold a couple of thousand records, a German label asked to re-release them, and they were the ones to invite us down to play Europe. We wouldn't have thought of it because we didn't play that many gigs back then. So it's a supply and demand kind of thing. It's just not, we didn't force ourselves onto our European neighbors.
No, that's
invited us down.
Yeah.
That's definitely true. We were just, I mean, the first time we got an offer to play abroad, it was just like, okay, maybe we should do that. Yeah, we played Holland and Belgium. Like, we did 2 shows, just went down together with some other bands, and it was just it was just a big adventure at that time. But you got very, how to say, surprised to see the youth clubs in Europe compared to the youth clubs in Sweden.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we've been mainly playing like all ages shows with no alcohol and nothing like that. And then you come to a youth club in Holland, in the Netherlands, and they like serve beer there, and you get beer on the rider without even asking for it. And it's like, okay, so maybe this is what we should do then.
Yeah, I was
growing up in the Swedish rural area, you know, we are that kind of people.
You made your own beer.
Yeah.
If someone said you can go around Europe getting free beers, we would say like, oh, okay, so that's what we should do.
Yeah. Or you can play for like a baguette and hallon soda in Sweden.
Yeah, more like Skogaholmslimpa with cheese and krusbärsdricka.
This is like the perfect bridge to what I was gonna ask next. Like, what do you recommend bands? Because we obviously have listeners and watchers who are in bands as well. What do you recommend to them if they want to tour Sweden super badly?
Don't play punk rock. I guess. The gap between the small place, really small youth places, and the bigger venues in Sweden is like too big.
And the bigger places, you have to be advertised on TV to get in there.
Yeah.
So either
in Germany you have the middle
with a bigger band, or you play do it yourself.
Yeah.
Play someone's living room. It's
exactly.
There's nothing in between really if you want to tour.
And I think, or I hope, that younger people do the DIY shows more now than we maybe dared to do when I was younger, because that's my, as I understand it, I think people are like, even if it's not punk rock, it's maybe the punk rock attitude or the like DIY spirit toward things, because you have to solve it yourself, since there are no places in between the big venues and the small youth non-alco places. So in Sweden at least, so do it yourself is my idea.
It's probably easier now as well.
I guess
with the PA systems and amplifiers are so small and quite cheap now, and the
plugins, and you don't even have to play.
But there's a big difference in Sweden nowadays, because in the early 90s there was lots of musical clubs all over Sweden that you could play, which was, I mean, it wasn't youth clubs, but it was like musikförening. And I think they pretty much disappeared, all of them nowadays. But
did they have
them? It was even like a network where you could book you on these music club things, and they were all over Sweden and in really small cities and stuff. And I think they're pretty much gone, every one of those.
Yes, but also back then they would book 3 extremely different bands on the same bill, which was fun, which like a pop group, a punk group, a metal group.
Yeah.
So that was fun for that.
Yeah.
The first like Sweden tour that we did together with Millencolin in 1994, I suppose it must have been. That was, we went from the far up north of Sweden down to the further south, only playing that kind of clubs.
Venerea, you just put out your last record on our label. Can you tell us a little bit about what that record meant to you? As we talked about it before, I had the feeling there's a lot of storytelling in it. You know, I just had the feeling that there's a lot of stories you're telling in your songs, but maybe you can give us some words and some insights about the work of Venerea for the last album, Eurotrash.
Oakley dokley, skipperoonie. It's called Eurotrash. There are 16 songs on it. Most of them, I'd say all of them, are in the same fast tempo almost. But the lyrical content, I would say, differs a bit from song to song. Most of them are, as you say, story songs. And they're also, the vast majority of them, as usual, are taken straight from the imagination and have no grounding in reality whatsoever. And the narrator of the songs, the guy singing is usually either morally corrupt or or a bit of an idiot.
What's your favorite song on the record?
Subterranea is my favorite song.
Why?
It's about the creative process, I guess, and the way that there's sort of a link to the underground music scene, the unconscious part of writing songs, where you don't know where you get it from, and also sort of when you were little and you were doing things in secret with your friends, like your parents wouldn't know what it was. There's something connecting these three things for me. And that's what the song means for me. Also, it rocks, I think. And as far as I'm concerned, it's timeless music that we're playing. So even when punk started in the mid-70s, it hankered back to the like whatever, Beach Boys or 50s music, or the Velvet Underground or what have you that came before. So as long as there's been rock and roll, there's been some sort of punk rock. And I don't feel like it's trapped in 78 or 83 or 88 or 94, but I can write a song with summer of 94, for instance, because that's when we started. Or I can write a song about an aging rocker on the road that really doesn't have that ambition anymore or the energy, and that's what the song The Nobodies is. So I can, you know, something is from a child's perspective or something is from like someone really old's perspective, and it's all encompassed in this timeless sort of music. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And it's a great album, I have to say.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
As is yours, as always.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we got, of course, two people of no fun at all here. Ingo and Stefan will tell us a little bit about Seventh Wave now. We're still, by the time we're recording this, we're still on the release weekend. And it's been a long road. It's been a tough road to some parts. The album is going very, very good. It's going very great, and it's a very, very cool album, I gotta say. And it's been really fun to work with you guys until now. And what I would want to ask is, like, what's it like for you to release this album now this weekend? Because I feel like we did some re-releases together. It's been a couple of years now since you released your last album with original material, and how does that feel?
Big. It feels surreal after like the pandemic and everything, and the whole process for me has been kind of surreal this spring when we rehearsed a lot and we recorded the album. It went by so fast somehow. last album took more of. We didn't really know each other that well back then because me and Frederick were new in the band, so it was another process. But now it's been very smooth, but passed by very fast, and here we are. It's released, and I feel overwhelmed by that. But I'm very proud and happy that it's out now because I enjoy the album. That's my personal view.
Yeah, it's more. Grit was, I don't know how to explain it. It's but Grit was songs that has been written on a period of almost 10 years. From Micke who writes pretty much all the music. But the Seventh Wave is a written album. It's written just to be an album. And so that's a big difference, I think, with the two albums. And also my work in this process has been very different. I don't know. It's been, yeah, I don't know. It's some people are very creative and just things just pop out of their heads. But I have to work a lot with my stuff, with the lyrics, and I never know what's gonna happen. I never know what's gonna happen when I start to write lyrics. I have ideas about what stuff that I want to write about, but I never plan, okay, this song is going to be about this. I can plan it, but then it doesn't come out that way. Another song takes that idea that I had for that song, and it's really frustrating, and it's very, very hard work. But I'm really happy with what happened on Seventh Wave. It's like things popped out in the right direction, and as you said, Mike, there's even a song on Hour that is about how hard it is to write songs. But in the end, they will come through. They will. Yeah, I'm extremely happy with the new album. I really like what the guys did on their instruments, and Micke's songs are always very. It's always very fun to hear them. Also, we recorded the See the Splendor video in the hotel room between bands.
Yeah.
See,
that was fun.
This is something a lot of people probably wouldn't have known. You know, this is a punk rock band right here.
There's a lot of this shit going on, you know.
A camera and a phone in a closet, and me standing, you know, to the wall, singing it twice, and then that's a wrap.
Awesome.
That was fun.
That's the DIY spirit. Yeah,
has to be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for that interview. We're here on the SBÄM Records and Festival and Artworks YouTube channel. I hope everyone who's seen the video and hasn't checked out the new albums of those two Swedish bands are gonna do it now by the latest. We had Ingo and Stefan of No Fun at All, and we had Mike of Venerea. I keep pronouncing it incorrectly a little bit. I'm sorry.
It's not a real word. You can pronounce it whatever you think. Latin is not it's a dead language, so we can pretend.
I was hoping for that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Yeah, good to see you, Mike.
You
And
too.
Stefan.
Yeah. Likewise, all of you. Good to see you all.
Yes, let's tour more.
Yeah, we should.
Let's do that.
Definitely.
Let's do that. Absolutely.